Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me this evening for a live show, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing all right. It's getting a little cold again. Why is that? Like, there's rain in the forecast. Like, the Kings season just ended. It should be warm around this time. Why are we getting rain?
I'm with you. I'm worried about my back and the weather change. This is a weird one for my back, which like the barometric pressure shifting greatly, and that's never a good thing for me. So like when it goes from really warm to all of a sudden cold, that's bad. Okay, let's introduce Brenden Nunes from the King's Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
I'm doing well. Change of the month, and I'm feeling like Floyd in this Mayweather. Can't complain.
Oh, stop.
What?
What the hell?
What the
That
hell
would take a
just
lap. That was
what
so
just
cheesy,
happened?
bro.
What just happened?
What?
Did you
What
post
is-
your Justin Timberlake meme as well? That it's
What
gonna
is
be May?
happening?
God damn it, Brenden.
Oh
That
my
was
goodness, I
terrible.
cannot believe Brenden just went there. Wild. Hello, everybody. If you are chilling out and hanging out with us tonight, welcome. There's the chat that's starting to fill up, populate with people.
Can I make a request?
Okay.
No negativity, right?
Yeah, right,
Right?
Sean.
No negativity.
Is that too much to ask?
Yes.
I think this is going to be a positive show. I don't
It
know about
should
you.
be.
It should be a really positive show. I don't know. Like, we're going to get to it, but there's a lot of positivity that, like, around this team. We had exit interviews today, and I thought, like, between last night and the post game like conversations that we had with players, and then today's exit interviews, I thought it was nothing but positivity and just such a good vibe around this team and around this franchise. So we'll try to keep it. We'll try to keep it nice and clean here. Yeah, I think we all saw a comment at the same time. Thanks, off topic.
And Brian, what do you mean? Brian says Sean's saying no negativity. I'm not that negative. I'm pretty optimistic when I'm talking about the Kings. Like, come on now.
Sean cries
Right?
about the weather, but the Kings, he's
Yeah,
okay,
that's true.
positivity wise. I, for one, have decided to have a drink. So I made myself a little Kentucky Mule.
What's in the Kentucky Mule? I've heard
That
the
is-
Moscow version, but not that one.
Well, it's basically the same thing. It just used Woodford instead of vodka. So it's Woodford, basically whiskey, and then ginger beer and some lime and some ice, and drink it. Just stir it up, drink it. Nice and refreshing.
Sean,
Okay.
do you have a candle going on, Sean? Or am I alone?
No, I was thinking of lighting one. I got one ready. It's the cucumber melon.
These two and their
If it's in
candles.
YouTube. Did you already beat me to it, pal? What do you got?
Me?
I
just got the
still
same
have-
vanilla warm tobacco.
I still have. See, I still have the Japanese cherry blossom, but it's kind of.
Why haven't you lit these things up? What is happening?
Oh, I usually do. I just don't advertise it all the time. Hold on.
Hold on. Wait
It's
for
usually a post-pod
it.
conversation.
It's like a pyro thing going on here.
This is something weird, and we don't talk about all the time, but Brenden and Sean always have podcast candles, which is totally bizarre. We need our
Why
own.
is that bizarre?
Is it bizarre?
We need our own brand of podcast candles that we sell. That would be spectacular. So everyone can light the candle. See, there we go. There we go.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm telling you right now.
That's a good one. Yeah. Last time we talked, Brenden, hold up your candle again?
Yeah, it's vanilla and warm tobacco.
Warm. Yeah, okay. So
warm tobacco.
See, I think we discussed this after the podcast. When I was young, my grandfather passed away in a Jeep accident when I was 5. But yeah, there you go. Sean just lost his shit. We
Someone
discussed
clip
this,
that.
I think, after the podcast. I don't know what just happened to Sean. Sean coughed. But my grandfather passed away when I was young, but I used to spend a lot of time with my grandfather, and he smelled of chewing tobacco and black coffee. And so every time I smelled chewing tobacco, I instantly think of my grandfather. So Brendan's got this candle over there. Hopefully Sean comes back. Amazing.
Sorry
He
for your
probably
grandfather, Sean. I mean,
Yeah.
James.
He's coughing in the background. Okay, so while Sean is gone, hopefully he returns here. First of all, you can see his
I'll be there in a second.
you can see his beautiful backdrop with all of his amazing stuff. But we're doing a live show. So if you're watching right now, number one, in order to comment, you have to go in and subscribe. It's that simple. As soon as you subscribe, you can comment. It's a good way for us to bolster our subscriptions. We're cruising towards 3,000. Super exciting. And thank you everybody for turning out for these last minute live shows. We don't plan these things well. If we did, I'm sure we'd have even more people than we typically do. But I want to thank all of you guys for jumping on board here with the Kings Beat. So with that, if you don't mind, hit the thumbs up button. We'll remind you throughout the show that I'm glad Sean has returned.
I have to apologize. Like that was just
I told you this story last time.
A curveball, bro. I know
but
you
off
did.
The air, off the
we
air.
were like, everyone was just kind of like jovial and having good time and talking about Candle and not. I tell you about the time
people pass away, but they do.
Yeah, I know.
It was just what it is.
It was just a curveball, and I wasn't ready for it. And I was mid drink, and I've made a mess on the floor. Fortunately, it's just water.
For what it's worth, I'm laughing at Sean's reaction. I'm not laughing at what James said. Just to be
right.
clear.
No, Brendan, you're completely understandable.
I laughed at your reaction as well. I like, it happens. I've had
Sorry,
a few decades to get over the situation.
It was not expected, bro. Yeah, and I knew the story. It just wasn't.
You knew the story, just caught you off guard.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so again, if you're hanging out here, thumbs up, subscribe so you can comment, subscribe so you can be part of the fun here. Because we're losing our shit tonight. It's just happening. It is what it is. It's been a long couple of weeks. And so also jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a subscriber, jump on board for a premium subscription. We're going to have a happy hour soon. And I think I'm going to throw a crazy curveball here and get someone that is going to be huge and people are going to go nuts over. And I might even have to limit how many people can get into the happy hour. So that's my plan. That's my plan. I'm sticking to it.
I don't even know this. Yeah. What the hell is this?
Yeah. We'll
get an invite?
It probably won't be this Thursday, but it might be the following Thursday. So, all right, Sean, you're not drinking carbonated water, right? Because carbonated water, that would have hurt. That one would have hurt.
No, the other water. No, this is where water is good, but man, my God, I could use a drink now.
There we go.
When do you let us in on the secret of who this person will be? Could be or will be.
Here, I'll just text you right now.
You're gonna text us
to add to the intrigue.
I'll make sure to turn my phone volume up to add to this.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is that good?
That's great.
Oh,
all right. Well, we've burned 9 minutes so far of this podcast, talking about absolutely nothing. But let's get to it. The Kings are losers. They just fell apart and got demolished and are no good. And it's time to rebuild the roster. Sean, your thoughts?
Yeah.
Is it Tuesday?
Like that.
Tuesday overreactions.
Definitely qualifies as a Monday overreaction.
Yes.
No, I mean, I don't know where you want to start. I think the only thing that comes to mind for me is just looking back at Game 7, and yeah, you look like you belonged. That there was an entertaining start to the game, and get into halftime, and you come out in the second half, and we see a bunch of shit we just don't normally see, which is a whole slew. I think it was 13 offensive rebounds for the Warriors.
in the
just
third quarter
nothing.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing going right for the Kings. Just relying on a lot of like 3-pointers, some open, some not, some forced, some not. And then make no mistake, that was a crippler of a 4-point play that Klay Thompson had at the end. But you go into the fourth quarter and look, the crowd was fantastic. I mean, I was having a disagreement with one of our coworkers on the air, Kirsten Keller, last night. I pushed back a little. She thought that the crowd didn't really have it in the second half. I said the Kings didn't give them shit to cheer for in the second half,
Yeah.
and I thought the crowd was fantastic. I really do. I felt like the normal fourth quarter hype was great. You know, the game is still within reach despite what happened on that 4-point play with Klay Thompson, and you just really saw one of the most impressive. I don't even know what adjectives to use to describe. I mean, just really, really great performances that you'll ever see. And the Kings were on the receiving end of a Steph Curry magical moment, and 50 points, a record in a game 7. It's tough, but I mean, it's also like, you know, you kind of admire the Warriors a bit. Like, you gave them all you had. You pushed them to the brink. The second half was a let up, and they took advantage of it. They capitalized on every mistake that they made, and I feel like Kings fans were really genuinely classy in the way they handled the way their team kind of melted down there, and admired what the Warriors did, and still rooted on their Kings to the very end. I mean, it was really cool to see when the starters have been pulled. Mike Brown emptied the bench, and you see this crowd really show appreciation, not only for those guys, but while they're sitting on the bench here in Sacramento. Chance, really classy way. I feel that the way the Kings acknowledged the moment, acknowledged the success of the season, and you know what? Tip of the cap to the Warriors. They're still fantastic. They're a great team. They represent the league well for the most part. I know there's some hiccups along the way with Draymond Green, and some people might feel certain ways about him. But you know, it's just it really was cool. As Kel's 916 point, Sacramento's a special city. It is, you know, and it reminded you that the playoffs look good in Sacramento. And I think this organization has a bright future. Everybody knows that. And talking to the players, the coaches, staff in the past 2 days, like everyone's realizing what the moment is. And yeah, this team will look a little different next year, but overwhelmingly, it's going to be run it back and build off the success that they had.
Brenden,
Season
what do
as
you
a
got?
whole, extremely successful. I don't think there's any other way to put that. And a great first step to a team that could end up being just someone you see in the playoffs most years going forward, and potentially try to grow off of it. But just focusing on game 7 first, I mean, obviously masterclass from Steph. I like that the Kings sort of made him do it from 2, but I don't think that's thinking that Steph Curry isn't a good finisher. It's just more of a math thing. Like, I'd rather give him 2 than give him 3s when he's extremely efficient at both. And Curry reminded everybody that he's also a absolutely phenomenal finisher. Those scoop shots that are like right in your face and teardrop in are just absolutely ridiculous. He's sprinting around nonstop, which I know is just classic Steph Curry, but the extent of it always blows my mind when he's playing 38 minutes and doing it every single possession. So he was great, but I still think, and it's kind of just echoing what Mike Brown said post game, that the Kings had an opportunity to win this game, even with Steph dropping 50. I think it's those 13 offensive rebounds in the third quarter specifically that are just heartbreaking. And to Sean's point about the crowd, like, you could hear noises every time they got offensive rebounds. It's not like the crowd wasn't into it. They were reacting the entire time. It's just like, those are deflating. And a possession where they're getting 3 in a row when they already have double digits in that quarter, it's like that really, really needed to be cleaned up. And I wish that we got a close game down the end there and got to really feel the energy in that building in a close stretch of the fourth quarter. But it's a great season overall. I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed in the way that ended, but it happens, I guess. Like, they took the defending champs to game 7.
They did. Well, actually, I think they took them to game 6.5, and then the last half fell apart. So, yeah, like, I want to get to narratives, because I think in this there are a bunch of narratives. But before I do that, I'm going to sort of like piggyback on what you guys said. The 13 offensive rebounds were crazy in the third quarter. The Kings held the Warriors to just 2 in the first half. And then in the third quarter, it just felt like every ball flew right to Looney. And I know Looney did great work, and I know that the Warriors as a whole did great work in that quarter, but the Kings held them to 40% shooting. They held them to 30% from 3. They did everything they were supposed to do. The ball just kept flying off long rebounds and landing in the hands of the Warriors. And I know some people have been harsh on Sabonis. That's just a joke. If you watch Sabonis battling Looney, what he was doing in the post was crazy. It was literally like a Greco-Roman wrestling going on down there. They were fighting it out, and what was supposed to happen was the other guys were supposed to go get the rebounds, and they stopped doing it. I know Herter and Murray both had huge first half rebound numbers. Monk had a big second half rebound number. But overall, the other guys didn't do their job while Domas was trying to hold down Looney. And it's just nearly impossible, especially all of their shots, like so many of their shots were 3-pointers. And so that means you're getting long rebounds the whole time. And Domas can't rebound over the entire court. And I just felt like he was doing such a great job of keeping Looney away from the basket. But that meant that when long rebounds flew out, they flew out to where Looney was, because that's where Domas was pushing him. So, I mean, we can go through and we can break down some of the numbers and stuff like that. But I thought, even though the Warriors had killed him on the glass, the 13 rebounds, offensive rebounds, and all that stuff, with like 5 seconds left in the third, it was still a 6-point game. And then I thought that Draymond Green should have been called for an offensive foul for a moving screen against Terrence Davis. I think Terrence Davis did what he always does, which is make a silly mistake. And he did kick Klay Thompson, but I don't care. I still think that it was a moving screen on Draymond Green. There's another play you can see where Draymond walks up to Terrence Davis, who's defending Steph, and he just takes him and walks with him like 5 feet out of the picture. And you're just like, where in the world is the moving screen call? And so that play in itself was bad, but the Kings were only down 10 going to the fourth. They were up 10 going to the fourth in the previous game. In the first 3.5 minutes of the fourth, they just stopped scoring. They stopped hitting everything. They started taking bad, ill-advised shots. Those offensive rebounds broke their spirit. And I think it's a bummer. But that's what happens in some of these games, especially against a seasoned team. And then Steph took over, and the Kings didn't throw the kitchen sink at Steph. Their goal was to let Steph try to do that and to stop everybody else. And I thought for the most part, they did a really good job. Steph Curry took 38 shots to get to 50. Like that's
can I push back a little?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where was Davion Mitchell and why was he on the bench?
Yeah, I get you.
I mean, I understand what they were trying to do it for the most part of that, but I mean, you're seeing Steph go off. You're seeing double team isn't coming there. Mike even kind of admitted as much afterwards, saying we could have doubled a lot earlier than we did. And to your point, James, like the plan kind of worked. I mean, Steph went otherworldly, but all those other guys, Klay, Wiggins, Jordan Poole, really struggled to shoot the ball. And Steph just it was really Steph and Kevon Looney, and that wins you your game right there, and the coupling of bad shots by the Kings, not making shots, and let's face it, it's a game 7. That means Kings aren't making free throws. And by the way, neither were the Warriors to a certain point. And we had another. I mean, Steph Curry just gave Golden One Center free cookies. You don't see that, and it was consecutive games where he's missing that many free throws. Never thought I would have said that Steph Curry was going to miss 2 free throws at Golden One Center and give the crowd cookies. But
wild.
No, it's just, it's wild. It's just, and you know what? I hate to say it. I mean, trust me, I'm not patting myself on the back when I say this, but this is that stuff that, until you see it, you're not sure that the Kings can pull it out. Like a game 7, on your home, even though it is on your home floor, you're going up against championship pedigree. Scott Foster's in the building. There's some crazy officiating going on, but officiating isn't what lost you the game. It's all self-inflicted. Trey Lyles said it I thought, as clear as could be, and I really like the way De'Aaron Fox talked about it. It says it's a blessing and a curse because, you know, the blessing of going up against the team that you could have changed. You talked about narratives, James. Like, you could have really had some incredible storylines. Like, if Harrison Barnes hit that shot, imagine the stories that would have,
Yep.
coming out of that, and even just taking down the Warriors in a Game 7, or keeping your foot on the gas. If the Kings looked any different in Game 3, that could have gone a long way. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, pain they're going to carry into the offseason. I think it's a good thing. And I saw some, I don't know if it was in my mentions where I saw it, but if you're a Kings fan and you have been for a long time, this could be your Utah Jazz, like in '99. This could be the equivalent to that. We've talked about what's going to be the John Stockton moment where they clobber someone. I still don't think we saw that moment. I don't think that the Kings, I think they played with physicality. I don't think they played with enough. I think they did a brilliant job of not taking the bait from someone like Draymond Green, and even playing the newspaper ward and bulletin board material. They looked like a veteran team when it came to that. But you also kind of need a hockey goon, and you didn't really see that guy step up in this series.
I
think
overall,
the answer that we would have gotten to why did Davion not play is just what the game plan was going into Game 6, right? And the reason he said after that game why we saw less Davion, and just the minute rotation change, more TD, more Trey Lyles, and him being the primary backup 5, like leaning more into Kevin Huerter, even if shots aren't going down, is they were just so much putting a focus on spacing that needed to be what this team was about. And that's what it's been about all year around De'Aaron and Domas. And it's just like getting shots up. I mean, they only scored 100 points. I know you could have slowed Curry down probably better with Davion, but if they're, from their perspective, which is what it seemed like for Mike Brown, the issue is that you're not offensive rebounding and you're not making free throws. I don't know that Davion necessarily helps with either one of those. So I don't know. Just to the people that are wondering, like, what possible logic, I definitely see why maybe at halftime or going into somewhere through the third quarter, you feel like, all right, maybe we should look towards Davion now because Steph is just on a heater. But I think that's the answer we would have gotten, because I saw some people upset that question wasn't asked post game.
Yeah, I don't think, like, again, Mike had a game plan to go small, but when you go small, you can't go ultra small. And Davion is a horrible rebounder at the NBA level, absolutely horrible. And you needed Malik Monk. Malik Monk had 9 rebounds in that game. You needed him on the court. Kevin Huerter had, what do you have, 9 rebounds on the game? Like, so if you're going small, you can't go small at every position and hope that it works out. And again, like, Steph Curry shot 38 times to get to 50. It's not like they couldn't have made an adjustment. That the adjustment that the Kings needed to make was to hit some shots. And I think that that's why he left Terrence Davis in the game. He had 4 threes. He was one of the few players that was hitting any threes. And I think that's probably the biggest story of the series, is that the Kings as a team shot 30% from 3. Kevin Huerter shot 20%. Like, Harrison Barnes shot 25%. Keegan Murray finishes at 37.5%. So he was great over the final 4 games shooting the 3. The first 3 games, he was 1 of 8. So what this all boils down to is everyone wants to heap so much blame on Domas in this series, and I'm just not here for it. Like, their entire offense is predicated on spacing, and the dudes who spaced the floor didn't hit their damn shots.
Well, and also, like, we haven't even mentioned it, De'Aaron Fox wasn't good
from 3
in the final 3 games.
Oh, in the final game.
In the final game, especially. I mean, you go 5 of 19, 3 of 10 from beyond the arc, 5 turnovers. He was in foul trouble as well. I mean, it's like that's kind of when you don't have, like, Domas started off, I thought, super aggressive on the offensive end, and it did wane a little bit. I still think I think defensively he was a presence, but it was clearly his most impactful game of the series, and I think it came at the right time. It's just a total utter collapse in that second half. And when you don't have Fox rolling, which you have had basically in every game this series, that's going to be the result.
Yeah, I also think you really never saw Monk get it going.
Right.
Monk and Fox, they both finished with okay games, but not great games. And like I thought that the way that Mike went away from certain players, I thought it was interesting. Like I don't know how it changes. We'll probably get to that later in the pod, the Harrison Barnes situation and how it might change this summer, like how the perspective might have changed. Um, let's get to a couple of these narratives. Number one, the big one is Draymond Green complaining after Game 7 that he lost so much respect for Domantas Sabonis for not coming out and shaking hands. Like, look, that's not the way the game has always been, where everybody goes and hugs it out. That's just not the way the game is played for certain players. A lot of players don't like that. We can all remember times where players are getting dragged off the court for while they're trying to go shake hands after a bad game. I think it was Isaiah Thomas dragging DeMarcus Cousins off the court, or vice versa, in a game where things got contentious. I don't think I'm going to say this right now. Draymond Green is, in my opinion, he's going to make the Hall of Fame, and he's a great defender, and he's part of 4 great championship teams. I don't think in this game, in this series, he deserved to have his hand shook by Domantas Sabonis. His antics, his bullshit, his stomping on a player, his acting the fool, his going on a podcast and talking trash all the time, all of it was disrespectful. And if I was Sabonis, I wouldn't have shook his hand either. Now, Looney, I hope that Domantas Sabonis has got Looney's phone number and send him a text, because that right there was one of the most epic battles between two warriors. Really fighting it out against each other. They were clean. Sabonis clearly got the black eye, but I don't think that was intentional by Looney. I thought that was an epic battle between two incredibly strong human beings and a battle of wills. The rest of it, I have no problems with Sabonis walking off the court, because, to be honest, there are certain times where I don't think I could have walked up and given a high five to someone that I didn't respect. And it's okay to not respect Draymond Green. You can respect his legacy and his ability, but you don't have to respect him as a person, in my opinion. And so I was okay with Sabonis. And this guy, he's definitely creating a media career for himself. Good for you. But I think there are a lot of people, even in Warriors land, that would just prefer that he's not there anymore.
I'm going to disagree slightly, not with all of it. I don't have a problem with Domas not seeking out Draymond Green or letting Draymond Green come to him and shake hands. Tough series, right? But there's more players on that team than just Draymond Green. And Domantas Sabonis basically just showed that the Warriors completely got in his head, disrupted him, took everything about him, and I just don't think it was a good look. I think if I'm Domas, I'm staying out there. I'm taking my lumps. I'm going to show that, hey, I'm doesn't matter what Draymond Green did to me. Even if I don't go up and hug Draymond Green or shake hands with him, that's a pretty classy organization over there. That's a pretty you go shake their hand. It's the end of a series. Domas is all about. I mean, I talk about it all the time. He got to Sacramento. The first thing he's doing is touching everybody, dapping him up, make sure he's the biggest encourager. And I do think he's an ultimate competitor, an ultimate team guy. And that being said, like that, I was actually shocked that Domas was not out there. And again, that has nothing to do with Draymond Green. I think he could have done both, which is, dismiss Draymond Green, even if he dead fished him with a handshake or whatever. Go out there and you tell Kevon Looney he kicked your ass, which he did. You go out there and tell Steph Curry that was immaculate, which it was. You also just be out there with your show appreciation to that crowd that spent a fuck ton of money to be out there to support your ass through 7 games.
They did.
I mean, that's just, if I'm looking at Domas, I completely disagree. And I think Domas might have a little bit of regret there, if I'm being honest. I think he's got some feelings towards Draymond Green. They can work that out. That's between them. Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes hugged it out, and we all know kind of the story there. Harrison Barnes was equally disrespected in this series, and he had an awful series, and he's
But
out there to
you
wish some
caught
people
that.
well.
You caught
I
that
did.
moment.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was a two-party conversation? Because that short sell didn't look like a two-party conversation. That looked like one guy chirping in the ear of the other, and then the other being a professional and saying, "Okay, I'm done," and walking away.
Right.
Yeah, and I will say this, like, if you look at that video, Harrison Barnes is holding onto the back of Draymond Green the entire time. It's not like that
He's
Harrison
got
just
his
let
arm
go.
around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
got his
think,
arm around him.
again, that's the professionalism and the high character that is Harrison Barnes. I'm not saying that Domas isn't that. I think Domas definitely got caught up in the moment, okay? Caught up in the series. I think this whole series took him completely, not by surprise, but I think it just took him out of his element. I mean, that's about as frustrated as we've seen him as a professional, let alone just here in Sacramento, which certainly it was. So I just think it was a bad look personally. I think it also just goes to show that him not doing that, that it impacted him more than anyone else on that team. Like De'Aaron Fox had a shitty game. He grew up in this series and he went out there and respected Steph, Draymond, all those guys. That's what you do, even if it stings. And again, him and Draymond, if he had dismissed Draymond and didn't want to talk to him or whatever, you still go out and show appreciation to that team. I think that's what you do. I think that's what everyone does. This isn't everyone talked. I know it's in the chat here. People mentioned the Pistons and the Last Dance and what that did. It's a bad look. No matter how you look at it, it's a bad look.
I think that part of the game is going and paying a respect to each other afterwards and sort of having that moment. I also understand Domantas Sabonis being probably just upset with the entire way that the series went and that being it for them and getting caught up in that and going back. So I think Domas obviously has a right to do that. And I think Draymond has a right to feel a type of way about it. Like I rather would have seen, I just come from a perspective where thinking that you're always supposed to go do that after games pretty much. And
this isn't Little League though.
Yeah. No, let me say it a different way. I think it just shows a fragility on Domas's part, right? Like show that you're the better, show that you're capable of taking it. You know what I mean? You wilting and going to the locker room, that's a bitch move. It's a punk move. I wouldn't respect it. I don't mind Draymond for speaking out for what he said, but it's ironic that the same guy that disrupted him, it's like you're giving him everything he wants. That's exactly what he wants. You just gave it to him. So I just mean that I think it's a bad look. I'm sure Domas, I'm sure he's got his reasons for doing it. I don't think he was even thinking about it in the moment. And I bet you, we asked him, he was asked about it in the exit interview today and he chose not to even talk about it. I think he's a little embarrassed by it.
No, he was asked about Draymond Green's comments.
Right.
And he chose not to talk about that. I don't think he was refusing to talk about the fact that he left the court. He was refusing to take the bait with Domas after the fact, which is different. There's one thing to like defend why you didn't go out there. There's another thing to say, I'm not going to give that punk more of my time. And because that's what it looked like. I'm going to highlight something too here by someone in the chat. That Domas had a bad series and that refusing to acknowledge it, whatever. Domas is a player who is not going out and scoring 35, 40 points. He's a guy that needs his teammates to basically do their job in order for him to do his job. His teammates did not do their job. Many teammates on this team failed the Sacramento Kings and failed Domas. When they don't hit their shots, all of the spacing crushed down on him, and there was nothing he could do. And we talk about how the Kings gave Curry like a free pass in Game 7 because they wanted to stop everybody else. Let's not act like the Golden State Warriors didn't do the same exact thing with De'Aaron Fox the entire series. Say, look, Fox is going to beat us. He's going to beat us. We're going to stop all of these other guys who actually space the floor and cause a greater impact. So do I think Domas had a great series? No. But I also know that he didn't have a horrible series. His assist numbers were down because flat out his shooters stopped hitting shots. They were bad, all of them. Not one of them lived up to their season average. None of them. So what are you supposed to do if you're Domas? You keep making these passes. They started forcing things. Did he get frustrated? Sure, he got frustrated.
Sure.
He also got elbowed in the face. He got stomped on. All kinds of things happened to him, and his teammates didn't hit their shots and do their part of the job. And that's really frustrating for him. So I get it.
Saying
I
that
think
someone doesn't show up is like in a playoff series is insulting.
Yeah.
It takes away what the other team is doing. Like, look, we talked about the other team with Jordan Poole struggling, Klay Thompson struggling at different points in the series. Like, credit goes to what the other team is doing, and you take away dribble handoff, you take away some of these things that the Kings rely on. That's kind of the result. Like, I don't think you give the Warriors, and not you individually, you guys, but certain people who will say that they're not giving the Warriors and the opposition enough credit. Like, throughout the course of a playoff series, sometimes you end up having to play a different role for your team, and this is all a learning experience. First time they've ever been in this situation. You're playing defending champions, as Fox pointed out after the game, 10 times, 11 times in this series, in this season alone. And most of them, you had those 3 in the front of the season. You had the 4th game at the end of the season, which didn't really mean anything. And then you get 7 games with the champs. Like, that's, this team better than anybody at that point.
I think
agree. Go ahead,
for
Brenden.
Domas specifically, I think that he could have played better, but he still absolutely had an impact on this series. I don't put Looney's rebounding on him. First of all, I think the biggest thing that he could do, and he talked about it today, is just work on that jump shot. If you can hit that elbow jumper, which I think he's hit at a decent rate, from 4 to 14% this year, he's 51%. From 14 feet to the 3-point line, he's 45. Neither of those are great, but they're not bad. It's just that's only about a quarter of his shot attempts. I think that he's looked okay from there. There's just never been a frequency or volume to that. And I think that this series really helped him realize the importance of that, the way that teams are able to play off of him. And to anybody that I've seen saying well, why didn't they do that with Draymond? It's well, if Draymond runs a dribble handoff with Steph Curry, then the big is not there. Curry is getting an easy shot. It has so much to do with Steph Curry on why you cannot sag off of Draymond, but you can with Domas, because when it's De'Aaron coming off that screen, or if it's one of the shooters, you can just both go with him. So I think that Domas said today in his exit interviews, he plans to work on that shot, and he feels like their entire season would have gone differently if he was good at that shot. So if he can develop that shot, which sounds like his plan, I think it would do so much for the future of this team, and I'm excited to see what that looks like next year.
I haven't watched. He was trying different things. Like, he was shooting it from the 18-foot range. Then he started going into the free throw line and doing the one-handed flip shot. Like, you could see it was in his head that he had to create that shot. And, again, just to show some of the points that we're making here, while the Kings were giving up all those offensive rebounds in the third quarter, Wiggins shot 0 of 7 from the field. The Kings were doing a good job defensively. They were taking away specific things and saying, go ahead and beat us. And at the end of the day, they got beat. They got beat by one of the great players of all time. And so, yeah, I totally understand Mike's. At some point, I too would have gone to Davion. I too would have said, hey, we at least have to try to slow him down. But
Yeah.
I think in the flow of the game, you're just okay, this is crazy. Got to.
And Leandro made a good point too. It's we talked to Domas today. It's there's a high chance he's going to have surgery on that hand. He's got an appointment set to evaluate the hand, or
He did
obviously
today.
his finger.
He did
His
after.
thumb. And yeah, I mean, it's a high probability that he's going to have that operated on. So yeah, just what a warrior. I mean, the guy was amazing. I've seen so much criticism of Domas, and it's one series against who I like to call the immovable object in Kevon Looney. I mean, it's a tough matchup. I expected much more out of Domas offensively in the series. It didn't happen. To call it a disappointment, sure, it is, but you see why it's happening, and through it all, I still feel he was impactful for his team. he had moments in the series, especially in Game 6 defensively. He fouls out of that game. I thought he was a big presence offensively. Couldn't really get it going, but you know, it's tough. That guy has been, the way so many people have flourished around him by his presence alone. He is very much an MVP for this team. And the season that De'Aaron Fox has had, them being third in the West, him not getting surgery earlier in the year to what, can you imagine what that have looked like if he had gone away and had to take 6 to 7 weeks possibly away from the team? That would have been, that could
Game
have been
over.
it could have been done. So this is a huge foot forward for the Kings. It really is.
I think so too. Okay, so I want to get to so Domas told us today that he was going directly from like our exit interviews to a hand specialist, and it is likely that he will have surgery to reattach the avulsion fracture in his right thumb. So I don't know. I think it's like 4 to 6 weeks recovery time from that. But it's just a reattachment, like of a little tiny bone that's in there. They'll put a pin in to hold it in place, and hopefully that will figure that whole situation out. We also learned that De'Aaron Fox does not need surgery on his index finger. There was concern that he would need a pin put in place, but they're already saying that that does not need anything. And then we had this amazing moment, which I felt bad afterwards because I kind of hung the media relations staff out to dry. But we had this situation with Keegan early in the season where he hurt his hand. And I think he was on the injury report one game with a sore wrist. And that's it. We never heard anything else about it. And then Keegan started wearing the same bandage that Domas was wearing. And we kept asking him about it. And he kind of would look at the media relations staff and then like not say anything. Then he told us that he had been cleared, and we're like, cleared from what? He wouldn't say anything. So at the end of the media session today with him, it's like, hey man, can you finally tell us what happened to your thumb? And it turns out that Keegan Murray also suffered an avulsion fracture in his left thumb, which Domas had a right thumb. He has a left. It's his non-shooting hand, but his dominant hand. So Keegan is left-handed, but he shoots right-handed. His brother is also left-handed and shoots left-handed, which is one of those subtle differences you'll see between the two. But Keegan had an avulsion fracture, but his avulsion fracture was a minor avulsion fracture, which likely means that it was a non-displaced fracture, like the bone fractured but didn't completely pop off. And so they were able to immobilize it and hold it in place and let it grow back together. So Keegan won't need surgery, but his thumb injury was also a major issue early in the season. I think he did that in early December, right around the same time Domas did, maybe even like a week before. And the Kings kind of kept that one under wraps. And so,
Well, yeah, you're right in how he had dodged some of the questions earlier, but as the season went on, I mean, Domas was saying he's got the same injury I do. Keegan said the same thing. You see the wrap; it was exactly the same. The specific medical of the avulsion fracture that was new today. That's, I guess, if you want to call it that, but it also healed on its own. It healed before the playoffs started, so that was the most encouraging thing. It really wasn't a factor, and that was. It was a factor of him experiencing it early on in his rookie season, but in terms of as the season progressed, he was able to play with it. And the reason it wasn't on the injury report because he was going to play. Like it wasn't going to prevent him from playing. It was weird to see the wrist, but I think actually he was dealing with a wrist problem at that time as well, and there was no need to actually have to say the thumb. So weeks ago, because when he took the wrap off is when I remember Domas even weeks later saying that Keegan's dealing with the same thing. But Keegan getting into specifics and the fact that, I mean, most encouraging that it healed on its own is great.
Yeah, he said he had a chip bone and that he had a torn tendon or torn ligament in the thumb. And I'll say this. I think it did matter to Keegan. It did actually, because while he shoots right-handed, he does dribble and do most other things predominantly with his left. And so it's possible that we saw less of what his potential was off the dribble early in the season because of his hand injury. But either way, he's going to be fine. Fox is going to be fine. Domas is probably a coin flip, and he probably needs surgery, but we'll have to wait and see until they kind of figure that one out.
My
the other
avulsion
thing,
fracture is all healed by now, by the way.
it is, yeah.
In your
Since
in your
it's the
toe.
cool thing to do. Yeah.
You just went out and got yourself an avulsion fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the other narrative that I love. Steph Curry couldn't sleep. Draymond Green couldn't sleep. They start texting each other, this dramatic text. They're old men in the middle of the night texting. And then basically Steph Curry gets in front of the team and says, don't get on that bus if you're not willing. I wonder, was there a point where Steph Curry just wanted to call Mike Brown and say, hey, Mike, I could really use 15 of your all-in t-shirts because I got this plan to tell my team that they got to be all in or they can't get on the team bus. So can I borrow 15 of your all-in t-shirts because I'm going full Mike Brown with this thing? Oh, Sean,
I don't think I want to hear Sean's take anyway.
I think they should have all signed something, like a
they should,
right?
They should have signed a Steph Curry like
a shoe or
a jersey and a glass case. Hey, everybody, if you're not
in,
totally in, not all in, but totally in. It was
corny. It was corny.
These
but
narratives, it's like this whole entire series,
James, it worked. Like, think about that. Like, you're Curry and you give that speech, right? Which again is cringy, corny. We get it. But he goes out and does what he did, 50 points.
And that makes it badass.
That makes it it's like shit. It worked. It's probably because it's Steph, right? Like, you don't have those moments from him. And
I would make the argument that it worked with Looney and most of the other players. It didn't work at all. And Steph carried a bunch of bitch asses all the way to the finish line.
Are we sure he wasn't only talking to Jordan Poole?
Remember, I was saying, Jordan Poole, you see Jordan Poole and Draymond Green have that moment, right? And look, things are dire at that point. I mean, you just lost on your home court in an elimination game where you could have just put the team away and moved on, and now you've got the pressure of going back to Sacramento. Those are the times you get those win one for the Gipper stupid speeches, and it worked. I mean, it worked. I just Brenden, at least Brenden and I can acknowledge it worked.
5 of 16 from the field, Andrew Wiggins. 4 of 19 from the field, Klay Thompson. 2 of 10 from 3. Draymond Green scores 8 points.
You know what would have been funny though?
Jordan Poole 8 points. Moody 5 points.
Curry says, "Don't get on the bus," and you just see I don't know, Iguodala get up. He's like, "All right, I'm out." He's not even playing anyway.
Don't get on the bus. It's okay, Steph. We know you're going to carry us either way. It should have been here's what I'm going to need all of you to do. Get in the backpack. Get in the backpack because I'm carrying you. Get in the backpack.
Maybe a backpack. They need to sign a backpack.
Just hand out backpacks to all of them. Get in. Steph Curry backpacks. Are you in? The narrative's the same thing. The Draymond Green has told the team he thinks it's better if he comes off the bench in game 4. They played so well in game 3. He's coming off the bench. That's not what happened. It's not. He told the team repeatedly, they kept telling him they were going to put him on the bench, that they thought that was the best idea. By 3 days in, he finally said, I think I should come off the bench. That's how that happened. The narratives in this series are spectacular and overblown, and it is what it is.
The nature of the postseason, I guess.
James ain't here for it.
I ain't here for any of it. Where's their backpack bell? Ring the backpack bell. There it is.
Steph looking over at Vivek and doing the light the beam motion like that.
Is that for sure a light the beam? Has anybody else that's a light the beam for sure?
Oh, no, it's what he said. He said it too.
Yelled, light the beam. Okay. Yeah.
And then he came over to the bench and screamed into the crowd like Draymond did in game 2. It was awesome. Like there was to see the theatrics of that as everything was playing out. Like tip of the cap, man. They did it. They looked like champions.
And the Kings made it take a Steph 50 ball in this
Right.
series. Like,
Yeah.
I think, if you want to totally go from Sacramento's perspective, like that great moment from Curry exists because the Kings pulled it out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get to this. Danelle, all the exit interviews, the way players talked about the bond together, the city really embraced them. Fans were great. It made her feel emotional. I'm going to play a clip from Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles was incredible in the locker room last night, and then today during his exit interview, I thought he struck a chord. And I did not upload the video. I'm just going to play the audio clip for you, but I'll do it near the mic so everyone can listen to it. If I can figure out how to hit a button.
Wait for it. Oh,
Old man.
Returning is honestly my number one priority. The fellowship, the relationships that I've been able to create with these guys has been above and beyond anything that I've had in the past. I went to on a personal side, I went to De'Aaron's birthday dinner earlier this year, and that's the first time that I've ever hung out with, I guess you could say, a teammate, or inside of a personal matter like that, at a house, just having dinner and just hanging out. So for me, that's my number one priority, is just to continue to be here and build those relationships with these guys and be part of something special.
I thought that was pretty strong. I mean,
my thought was, why has no one invited Trey Lyles to hang out before? Like, what the hell, man? You've been on several teams. Like,
I think he gets
can't
invited.
I'm going to, because Trey Lyles isn't one of the top 5 guys on a team. And not everybody gets invited. Not everybody's a cool kid. Not everybody got a text at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning from Draymond Green. Only the cool kids got to be on the text thread. You can see the text thread says Clay and Steph. It doesn't say Clay, Steph, Gary Payton II, and who's that Lamb guy?
I'm thinking of
our media dinner did not only include the top 5 media members. Okay,
we invited
top 5?
Everyone. No, there is.
Hold on,
no
who's your? Hold on, stop. Now, stop. Who's your
you
top
have
5
to be
media
under
members?
30 to qualify. So
I
under
that.
30.
So James and I are out.
We're the OGs. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I want to know this top 5 media meal. Top 5 media guys.
We'll see. All
right. Do you remember when Kendrick Perkins posted, it's like the Thunder posted them going to the movies or something like that, and Kendrick Perkins wasn't invited, and he commented on it in the Instagram post. He's like, "Oh, I see. Y'all go out and didn't invite Perk." That's how I'm thinking, with Trey Lyles. Who's not inviting Trey Lyles? Go do stuff with Trey Lyles, man.
Well, Trey has been on 5 teams in 8 years, and I think that another thing he answered later is kind of him saying that getting moved around a lot makes him hesitate to build those connections out of fear of building them just to lose them. And he said that when he got traded to Sacramento last year and this year was the first time he said, screw that, and let himself build those relationships. And the impression I got is that's a strong reason he'd like to stay.
I think so too. And someone asked, was Tony Ray there? Was Tony Ray Harvey? We invited Tony. Just so everyone knows, we did invite Tony. He was not part of the pictures of all of us out having a good time Saturday night in San Francisco. But Tony was he ended up at some other person's place in Berkeley. Thought he was going to make it over, didn't make it over. I kept texting him so he knew where we were at. We invited everybody. We're all inclusive for that event, and I thought it was a big deal. And for all of us who had been through so much together, I thought it was a fun night. It was. We all had a good time chilling and hanging out and all that stuff.
Some people aren't built like that, though. They can't hang. So
Sean said, "I'm built different."
They can't. Sean is in fact built different. Just so people know. Yeah, I thought that every single person who stepped to the mic showed an appreciation for what's happened, and of course, it was what they considered the top 9 guys today. They gave us, Terrence Davis was the guy that I was in addition to what I thought was going to be the top 8, and he was there as well. Everyone is excited about what's happening. They all would like to be back. They all think that this is a pretty amazing place, and that this is, like we talked about today's topics, a lot of it was about basketball home, because it's a term that
was weird.
Well, no, Domantas Sabonis brought it up. Like that.
Well, you asked him. Yeah, you asked him.
No.
About
He said it when he first got to Sacramento.
You're
that
right.
He had been searching for his basketball home forever, and he thought that he had found his basketball home, just the way he had been welcomed with open arms. And, you know, I told you guys this story when we moved up the hill, up to this area. My son, it was the day, I think it was Halloween, or maybe it was the first day of school after Halloween when we moved up to Lake of the Pines area. Every kid in his class had a welcome letter, and they were all waiting for him, in his class, and he felt so welcomed. It really reminded me of the way Sabonis came in. Everyone was so welcoming to him, not just within the walls of the organization, but or the 14 guys on the team, but everybody in the community, everybody within Golden One Center, all of the staff, everybody. And he's felt it the whole time. And that's a big deal when he's going to make a decision next summer about where he wants to finish his career, or where he wants to make, his $200 and something million contract. These things come into play. And so I do think that it's a really cool thing that that the vibe here right now is so good. And I thought from one player to the next, they were all so incredibly good. And like, they gave good perspective, like whether it was Fox talking about growing up, and like he said he'd had the best year of his life, like whether it was like personal success, but marriage, baby, Mike Brown, team success, personal success, all-star, the way he's played in the playoffs, everything. But I thought it, like almost to a man, they all were feeling the same way. Am I off base there?
No, not at all. I mean, look, Sacramento was once looked at as a place no one wants to play at. When you add someone like Domantas Sabonis, and you've got a coach like Mike Brown, and you're having a fun style of play that's equal opportunity where anyone can score, that's attractive. It's still a small market, and it's going to be tough to draw certain types of players in free agency. But you're basically over the cap anyway, depending upon what kind of moves you make. So free agency really isn't where the bread is buttered for the Sacramento Kings team. So I think that the way this team is trending, there's people that want to be a part of it. And you've got guys that there's going to be some tough decisions made for sure. This will be a new look team. It's not going to be, wholesale changes, but you're going to see some changes for sure. And a guy like Trey Lyles, now that he's going to probably command more money, there's a conversation to be had there. It is ironic because he's playing with a team that I could easily see, or playing against a team in the playoffs that I could easily see him end up in. I mean, he'd be brilliant for Golden State. That whole series, I said they need somebody like Trey Lyles, and Trey Lyles would be brilliant there. But he's also plays an important role for Sacramento. And coming into this season, I didn't think he would fit the type of role that they were carving out for him. I didn't think he'd be nearly as impactful as he was. So good for him for really exceeding expectations there and building something to where, I mean, he's probably going to command possibly $11 million a year, anywhere from that 7, 8 to 11, high as 11 possibly. So it's for him wanting to stay somewhere and find
Trey. Are we still talking about Trey Lyles?
You don't think he'll get that much? I mean, everything's going up now.
10, 11? I'm with you on like 7, 8. 10,
everything's moving up now. All these contracts are moving up, so it's I think you'd love to see 7, 8 if you're the Kings. I think there's teams out there you could see possibly getting a little bit more, and then the Kings have a decision to make.
Okay, so the way that the league works though is if you have cap space, you can go out and sign somebody. If you don't have cap space, you can go with a mid-level exception, or you can go with a biannual exception, or you can do like a sign and trade. Like when you as a player take less money, which is what he did 2 years ago, I thought it was crazy that Trey Lyles was on a 2-year, $5 million deal. But once you go down in salary, you rarely go back up, especially that big. And I'll relate it to, again, like the Harry Giles situation. Everyone thought, oh, Harry Giles, the Kings opted out of his $2 million a year, like his 4th-year option. He never got more than that 4th year, that league minimum ever again. And that's typical. So I put Trey Lyles in the same.
But he also didn't have 2 knee injuries like Harry Giles at the back end of it was there were people didn't want to invest in him. They don't have any, and the guy's not playing. He never played again. He went to Portland, played a preseason game, never did anything.
Well, yeah, but I would relate it to more even like financially the Alex Len situation, which is where I honestly think Trey Lyles is going to live in this salary. You guys can think I'm crazy, but there really isn't a gap between the MLE at 10 million / 11 million and the biannual exception at 4 million. I think Trey Lyles will probably get a 2-year, $8 million deal. He might get a 3-year, $12 million deal with a 3rd year being a team or a player option. Like, I think he's had a really nice season, but he still averaged like 8 and 6. Like, he's not someone that people are going to go out and spend honest to goodness cap space. He's not a person that I think teams will spend mid-level exception on.
Yeah.
So he's going to live in that gray area. And that means that, the Kings have as good a shot as anybody to bring him back.
I think the best thing he's got going for him too is not only did he have a lot of results in the season, his body's in the best condition it had been in as an NBA player. And he put a lot of strides this season. I could see it, man. I really could. Maybe not. I think 11. Yeah, that would be high. I don't think anyone's gonna be that desperate, but
yeah, see,
certainly he's gonna make more than what he made last year.
Yeah,
like 2.5.
I'll just pull this up. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like 3, like around there. Starting salary at 4 million. So that's really you can get a 2-year 9 million out of that, or a 3-year like 13.5, 14.
And you're speaking for specifically the Kings or for all NBA teams?
No, for the Kings, but I'm also saying that like around the league,
right?
Teams aren't going out and spending their cap space on Trey Lyles. Like, that's like, unfortunately, and that's not a dig on Trey Lyles. Like,
it hasn't been, but he's made a lot of strides this season, and I think there's a lot of teams that can look at him and say it's exactly what they need. And yeah, Mark Sousa just brought up the 448 for Portis. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, Trey Lyles isn't getting that money. Okay, so thanks for listening here to the Kings Beat podcast. We are doing a live show here on YouTube.
Are we done?
So no.
Yeah,
okay.
right,
So,
Sean. Like halfway through the episode.
No, I was just saying, if you guys are out there and you want to give us a thumbs up, that would be totally appreciated. Also, jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber, all that stuff. But I just wanted to reset us here.
And James, if you want to comment, what do they have to do?
Yes, if you want to comment, you have to subscribe. You have to be a subscriber to the channel,
the
YouTube channel here. So, and it takes 2 seconds. And once you hit the subscribe button, you are instantly allowed to comment.
We only care what you have to say if you subscribe.
That's right. That's totally true.
Just for live shows.
Yeah.
Let's get to the other end of the spectrum. Did Harrison Barnes hurt his value greatly? I asked him the question today to start the show, like, hey, like, if this is your last time, what do you feel about your 4.5 years in Sacramento? And
said, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, well, yeah. I said, how proud are you of like the outcome, and what would you like your legacy to be? Something like that. And he said, what, am I dying? I feel like I'm dying. I laughed. I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I thought at the beginning of this series, at the end of the season, Harrison Barnes was looking at a 3-year, $48 million contract, like 17, 16, and 15, or a 3-year 45 at like 16, 15, 14. My number keeps dropping, and I'm not sure how he fits. And the Kings are trying to bring Sasha Vezenkov over, And, Trey Lyles is still part of the conversation. They know they need a long defensive wing to go with whoever they bring in. Like, where are you guys at with Harrison? Because he played barely at all in the final 2 games. He was totally a non-factor. He didn't hit his shots. He shot 25% from the field for the series. He barely rebounded. Even the one game where he had 17 points, he had 1 rebound and no assists. Like, this thing kind of went sideways, and I'm not sure how to put into perspective what damage he may have done, or is it too late to do damage because he has a body of work that's much larger than this.
He did start every time that he was available for the Kings this season, and that was every single night. I think there's an extreme amount of value in that. I think the final 2 playoff games definitely were eye-opening, just from it just says a lot about how the coaching staff felt about how he was performing, and also a lot about how some of the other guys were performing. I think that HB is a shooter, but not the same extent as Kevin and Keegan. So Golden State's not guarding him the same way, where Kevin and Keegan still have a gravity. HB, it's just not the same extent of spacing provided when shots aren't going down compared to Kevin and Keegan. And the rebounding wasn't amazing. I still think he has a lot of things he does well. It's just going to be about what is the league-wide perception of Harrison right now when it comes to contract value, because I think it's somebody you'd like to have around. But it's also, in my mind, the obvious position where if the team's going to make another jump, that's where you could find a way to get better. And I think that a sign and trade, if there's something that they saw as a potential improvement, could make some sense. I also wouldn't hate the idea of HB being back. I don't really know how to feel about those last 2 games. I think I need to get a better feel for what free agent market looks like and potential names that could be your other options, because the last thing you want in my mind is I don't know about the last thing, because I was going to say the last thing you want is just HB to not be there and you don't have a replacement, but maybe you're freeing up flexibility in the future. It's a weird situation, and clearly I can't take a side right now.
I think throughout the course of this year, I've talked about HB and his future in Sacramento and kind of the degree of Keegan Murray. If everything goes well, he should be able to replace Harrison Barnes. Maybe it's not being able to do it as early as next year, to where you can count on him being that type of player. But he certainly made great strides in that regard. So I feel like having the likes of Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray, you already know you got Keegan going forward. If you are to lose Harrison Barnes, which I don't think they necessarily want to, but you'd be able to navigate that a little bit, free up some money. Hopefully you're finding somebody better. Hopefully you're finding a rebounder. Hopefully you're finding I've always been after a 3-and-D for the longest time. So they don't grow on trees though. Finding the right person to replace him would be challenging. So I can see a pathway to where Harrison Barnes isn't on this team. I think there's a pathway where he takes less money, substantially less, and carves out a role for himself that could be very good with this team, especially with some of the, you mentioned James Sasha Vezenkov. What does that look like? Would he, there's not necessarily, there's a high belief in his ability to be on this team and to be able to produce for this team. But there's no guarantee that Vezenkov is ready to go either. So knowing somebody that you have that vet where you can rely on Harrison Barnes as a starting 4, possibly 3 in this league, you go for it. But if you can upgrade the position, you absolutely go for that too.
Yeah, I think the Kings are going to be aggressive in trying to upgrade the position. A lot of people bringing up Kyle Kuzma. I'm not sure that Kyle Kuzma has ever done anything that would warrant me to jump all over him as a free agent signing where you're going to have to pay $25 or $30 million a year. And even that in itself is really difficult for the Kings to go out and do. Like people bring up Cam Johnson. Again, a young player. He's had some injury issues. I'm not sure that works. I like Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. But again, I'm not sure that that's an upgrade.
He still has a
Maybe it
year.
is. What's that?
He still has a year. He's not a free agent yet.
Okay. Yeah. Jeremy Grant. Someone brings up Jeremy Grant, and like, look, Jeremy Grant is the same age basically as Harrison. He's a different type of player. He doesn't have the impact off the court that Harrison does in the locker room. I'd point out that even like in their most chaotic, like incredible game 6, right? Where they're in this amazing they have this opportunity to go in and beat the Warriors. Everyone says it's Harrison Barnes who's pulling everyone aside. Every time there's something that's happening, Harrison Barnes is the leader that's pulling everyone together. So there is still a tremendous amount of value in that. There's also value in a player who understands his role and isn't going to make waves. So if you were signed Harrison Barnes to a 3-year deal and then lo and behold, he's coming off the bench, I still think that that's fine. Harrison is a pro. He'll deal with it. And like Sasha Vezenkov, he's not as good as Harrison Barnes, in my opinion. Like I've watched tons of film of him. Like I don't think he's as good. And he's not that much younger. I mean, he's like 27 going on 28. It's not like we're talking about some 22-year-old guy who's, winning MVPs in the Euro League. He's a role player, but we're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 on a potential playoff team. Harrison Barnes is still a starter. He's still a guy who plays 30 plus minutes. So I think like we want to be really reactionary when somebody has such a bad series, but you have to be realistic as well and understand that Harrison Barnes helps carry this team to 48 wins. He played all 82. He played 30 plus minutes in all 82. Like this is a guy that Mike Brown relied on for so many things during the season. So I think it's possible he's back. I just don't think that the value is going to be the same. I don't think he's going to get nearly as much money. And I certainly don't think he's at a point where he'll go play for nothing. He's not going to go play for league minimum. He's not going to go play for $5 million a year or $4 million a year. So if you're sitting around the $13, $14 million range, I think you can probably still get him and you can probably still have a very, very good player for a long time, for at least the next 3 years. And then the other thing, like we bring up Keegan, I still look at Keegan as more of a 4 that can play 3 and not a 3 that can play 4. I really want to see what he looks like at the end of summer. And what do you guys think? What can Keegan be by the end of summer? Because if he can become a 3, I think it changes everything for the Kings, because it's easier to find a stretch 4 and a defensive-minded shot blocking 4 that, 20-minute a game guys to man that 4, but the 3 is so difficult to replace.
I think a lot of it for Keegan in my mind is a mindset change of just being more aggressive. Like, first of all, dunking the ball, and maybe that's more than mindset. Maybe that is kind of bulking up a little bit, or I think there was just an adjustment to NBA physicality. I think we saw that very drastically, like in the playoff series itself. First 3 games was kind of non-existent, and then the latter 4, I thought he was phenomenal. So I think dunking the ball, I think rebounding consistently would be big for him. He's shown it at a good amount of games this year. I'd say 30, 40%, something like that. But doing that consistently, I think like we've seen a lot of flashes of mid-range jumpers, but that's maybe 1 a game in the last quarter of the season. Like if you just go to that more often, I think they were already going down at a decent rate. Like I do think that Keegan showed me a lot throughout the end of this season, and specifically second half of that playoff series against Golden State, to where, I mean, I've said it before, I'm very wrong about what the future ceiling of this guy was when I was looking at it at the time of the draft. And I think that's one of the biggest areas of where this team can continue to improve moving forward. I don't exactly know what the difference between a 3 and the 4 is in modern NBA, to be honest.
It doesn't
but I
matter.
think you need 2 guys in that spot either way, right? Like you need 2 similar type of guys.
Yeah, and sorry, Brenden. Like I agree. I mean, Keegan has moments where he can play either position. I just don't think he's ideal for either position. Like little undersized for the 4, possibly. I'd ideally like to see him a little more size for the 4. I think for the 3, he's got good size, but he doesn't really play the way a prototypical 3 and D would be. Someone pointed out that not a lot of slashing. Obviously, he's got the corner 3. He can shoot over it. He doesn't really have. He's not really great off the dribble. Doesn't really have great ISO skills. So yeah, these are all things that you want to see him develop, and I think getting his body right will be also just as imperative for him. Getting more playing with physicality. He got a good taste of it this year. But yeah, man, I think it also just depends, being that he can kind of rotate from basically 2 positions and then defend upwards of 4 positions, is a nice problem to have, and you can put pieces around him. Like if you ended up with I know, just taking names I've already seen in the chat, but everyone knows what I think about Pascal Siakam. I think he'd be brilliant in a Kings uniform. I just don't think it's going to happen. You got people like Paul George was mentioned. I mean, yeah, if you had somebody like that, then you just filter around him. Like if you end up with that type of player who's instantly an alpha on the team, then Keegan just plots right alongside him. Whether it's 4 or 3, doesn't matter. Whichever one you're getting, he just plays the opposite role. So it'll be interesting. I think for him, it's just all development, it's confidence, it's the physicality, it's the adding more to your toolbox, and more than anything, I think what's going to be really fun is keeping him with Domas over the summer. I think Domas will be the biggest influence he'll have in the NBA in his early years, and that's a great thing for him.
I also think the Kings should trade for all-stars and all-NBA players for what it's worth.
Especially when you don't have to give up anything, right?
Right.
Just something for nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, like everyone keeps bringing up Mikal Bridges. When he was traded to the Nets, the story is that there is a team that offered 4 first-round picks and the Nets turned it down.
I hope it was the Kings. I would do it.
Well, and like the other guy, you mentioned Siakam. I think OG Anunoby would be a difference maker and completely turn the Kings around defensively and basically be Harrison Barnes on the offensive end, but with an elite defensive mentality that can completely change everything. So that's the guy. The problem with him is he's now entering the final year of his contract, which may be a good thing and maybe a bad thing. A good thing in that he probably won't cost as much as he would have at the trade deadline, but a bad thing in that, you could lose him and you could go into a summer where you have 2 free agents in Domantas Sabonis and OG Anunoby, and they're both free agents at the same time. And that to me is like scary. And people keep saying like that, like Keegan's is a 3, or like I'm reading the chat that he's only a 3 because he can't handle the ball or he's not a slasher, all that stuff. Like, look, we watched even in this playoff series, Keegan show us things that he hadn't shown all season long. He hasn't done things specifically because that's not his role. And I even asked him, was it today that I asked him, like, how are you going to do those? Like, is there going to be a time where you feel confident enough to just go do the things that you can do, that we see that you can do, but you don't do very often? He acquiesces to his teammates too much. And I don't know that that's the one concern I have about him, that it doesn't matter what his skill set is. If he won't do the things that within his tool bag, then they aren't really things, it's great if you have all these tools, but if you don't know how to use them, or you don't know when to use them, or you just don't pull them out and use them, then they really aren't that, important to have in your tool bag. And so I hope that he has that mentality this coming season, because I do think like the sky's the limit. And I also think the Kings have to make a decision. Do you bulk him up and make him a power forward and really work on defining his upper body? Or do you lean him down, do a more of a, as opposed to mass, we're doing like getting him more cut and really work on his lateral quickness. And that's something that I think is a huge question mark. What do the Kings want to do with him? And either way, they need more physicality. They need more length at that position, at the forward position. They need more athleticism because it doesn't matter. Like Keegan can be an exceptional player, but he's not going to be a guy who, like Jeremy Grant, can jump out of the gym even at age 30. Like there's not going to be a moment where he becomes like a legitimate star shot blocker and 8 to 10 rebounds a game, or a lockdown defender at both the 4 and the 3. Like I just don't see that. Like he's going to be a really good all around player, but like to expect him to do some of these things that he's probably not made to do is a little like short-sighted. No, Dean, Wenyen Gabriel is not the answer. And that's coming from a guy who loves Wenyen Gabriel. We had Wenyen here forever, and he's a great kid. Let's see. Go ahead and filter in questions if you've got any. We'd love to answer some of your questions here as we get ready to go out. And I think we'll do the business of basketball.
I was gonna say, where's that? When you said go out, I was like, hey, where are we going? But
No.
I get what you're saying now.
We're gonna hit the business of basketball. And the question I have for you guys, why don't we do this? We'll almost do like factor cap, unless Brenden, you have factor caps to give us.
I don't.
God damn it, Brenden.
Hey man. Homework assignments. God.
No, let's quickly go through. Trey Lyles, is he back or is he not back?
Oh, are we doing this already?
Well, I think like your first initial, we can wait until we get closer.
I'll say yes to Trey, but I'm very unsure.
I don't know. I'm gonna say I just think it's too fresh. But if we're playing the game, I'll play the game. I'm gonna say probably not.
Okay, I'm gonna say he's back. I'm gonna say that he did enough as a small ball 5 to make people like go, okay, I could see him at that position.
Yeah,
and if we
I'm not.
sorry,
I just mean it's not that I don't think that they want to keep. I think all these guys they'd want to keep. Like there's several players on this team that they'd want to keep, but I think at the end of the day they won't want to possibly pay the money that they might be able to command elsewhere. And you just can't pay everyone, you know.
We get it. Okay. You think he's going to the Warriors? You already said it.
Yeah, I do. Right.
Wrote it on the paper. Okay. Terrence Davis.
No.
Move on. Alex Len.
Well, you didn't answer. Did you say no too?
You said no.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. Alex Len.
No.
Chimezie Metu.
No. What are you thinking about?
Probably not. But I could see it.
PJ Dozier.
Think of it this way. I could see it, especially you maybe lose Trey Lyles. Like you don't have to pay Chimezie Metu a boatload of money, or even a little bit of money. Like it's, I think it kind of. I think there could be a role possibly, but if I was betting, I'd probably say no.
I'm saying no because I don't think he was always on the same page with the coaching staff. So yeah, I'm gonna say absolutely not. Okay, we did Alex Len. We said no. PJ Dozier. He's actually under contract for next year, but on a non-guaranteed. But he'll be with the team practicing all summer.
I wrote it down. His is 2.4 by July 10th. So you actually get into free agency before you have to make a decision on him. So yeah, that's a nice problem to have. You kind of get to not only go through the draft, free agency, the moratorium period, all that stuff, and then actually is it July 6th when people can sign?
Something like that.
I think that's the official day. So yeah, you have July 10th. It's a nice problem to have. I don't think he'll be in the factor though.
Yeah,
yes.
I think he's a backup plan. He's a backup plan. So like it's better than having guys that have never played in the league or guys who have played minimal amounts in the league. So if you need him as a backup, like could he be a defensive-minded Terrence Davis for this team? Maybe. Okay, Keon Ellis. He's a two-way, but he's a restricted free agent two-way.
How dare you?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I could tell. How dare you?
You don't think he'll be back?
He's restricted free agent, right? So it's...
But they could bring him back on another two-way.
Right. Correct. Yeah. Can they? Yes, they can. Yeah.
Yeah, for 2
You're
more
right.
years.
Second year. Okay. You talked me into it. I forgot
Okay.
they could bring him back for another 2-way. So I'll say yeah.
I think the same. I think yes, but just on a 2-way level.
Okay. Neemias Queta.
I'm gonna go with no.
I'm
Restricted
going
free
to
agent as well.
say I'm going to say yes, particularly with no Alex Len. I could see a pathway where he's here. I don't. It's far from a solid yes, but I could see it.
I'm gonna say yes. I think. I mean, if I'm looking at a Sabonis, Alex Len, Neemias Queta 3 center with maybe like some other depth.
Didn't you say no Alex Len?
No, I'm sorry. Trey Lyles.
Oh, I got you.
Domantas Sabonis, Trey Lyles as a small ball 5, Neemias Queta as a backup 5, with maybe another 4-5 combo.
What wasn't backup 5 the issue like all this year, and those are all the same 5s as this year?
But you're
But you
right.
let Queta
But
go down.
Nimi stayed in Stockton, right? Made big strides with Stockton.
Second in the
And
league in MVP voting, all defensive, first team all G League. Go ahead.
And I think the next step for him is to be a roster player, and albeit a slightly paid roster player, and you're hoping that development continues that upward trend. Maybe some non-guaranteeds in there, but yeah, I could see it.
Rashawn Holmes. You know the horrible thing? I'll tell you. The Kings had 14 roster players because of the Dellavedova injury in the playoffs. The
Right.
one player that did not play a single minute in the playoffs, Rashawn Holmes.
Well, if he's on the team, it's not for lack of trying to move him.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I just think he's really difficult to trade, and it's everything to do with he makes a healthy amount of money, and finding a home for him as a result is difficult. So
Brenden?
I'm gonna say I have no idea. I think they would like to move him, but I have no idea.
No, take a side, damn it.
That's the one guy I can't. Like it's again.
No, it's not
you
an
can't
option.
put him on the front lawn with a free take him sign on there. So he's more valuable than that anyway. I don't want to dismiss Rashawn Holmes here, but no, I don't know. They tried to move him. They've had discussions. It's tough.
I agree
He's like
with
the
Sean's
modern
point.
day. He's like the modern day Kenny Thomas. If you go back in that era when Kenny came here in those first 2-3 years, he was fantastic, and then he was practically unplayable because he didn't fit the system that they were doing. He made too much money and you couldn't move him. It's just a tough position for him. Fortunately, he's got a beautiful family and they're well compensated, and he's a hell of a practice player and he brings it all the time, and he's ready. He'll be ready to if his number's called, but it just doesn't fit with what they're currently trying to do.
It's funny you bring up Kenny Thomas. Kenny Thomas is during an era of expiring contracts having so much value. The Kings could get nothing for him. They could not do anything with an $8 million expiring contract. Brenda, did you say yes or no on Rashawn Holmes?
I just want to say that it's a bitch move by Sean to not pick a side.
We all said bitch moves, man. I love this. I love it.
Bitch move, Sean.
No, I mean, I agree completely with Sean's logic, and just to be a man, I'll pick a side and say no.
Just to be a man.
He will not be on the team. I think that they will swing for the fences with a major move, and Rashawn Holmes' contract will be wrapped up in that with a bunch of first-round picks.
Where's he going?
That's just my
Toronto
with first-round picks.
Yeah, with first-round picks as part of a cap for like a much better player.
So okay. So they're moving first-round picks and Rashawn Holmes. What are they getting? What are they getting here, James?
Well, I mean, because anytime you make a trade in the NBA, you have to match salaries.
Sure.
Are
you saying they're sending first-round picks out? Is what you're saying?
Yes.
In order to
yes.
That's what I thought.
No.
So what are you getting?
I'm saying that
Jr.?
They're going to go after. No, I think they'll go after OG. I think they'll go after OG or a player like OG around the league.
Yeah.
Han, would you go after Jaylen Brown if Celtics meltdown? Yeah, Leezy, come on now. Yeah.
I think the best pairing next to Domantas Sabonis is Joel Embiid, personally.
Look at you.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mind Giannis as a secondary option.
Callum Lambert.
Secondary option.
How about this one? What do you guys think?
No. No, thank you.
No. How about no?
Brenden is hesitating, and that makes me fearful for what he's about to say.
Makes you think
Buckle
that
up,
you're even
folks.
more
Buckle up.
Anything. Not going to say anything. I don't know.
Do you love you some Porzingis?
I don't love me some Porzingis. I don't hate the idea.
Oh,
I do. Sean's on record. He hates the idea.
There's
Charles Pierre on the chat said everything I was thinking in his second comment.
I didn't see it. Let me see. Yeah.
Another one, Anthony Edwards. Yeah, give me all the all-stars.
Yeah, that's fine. Just go ahead and give all the. No, that's not going to happen. Yeah, Porzingis has some really, really weird and bad baggage that I don't think the Kings would touch. So
he's never healthy.
Ever. No, but he also has like weird stuff. Like his brothers are part of the equation.
Oh, no.
He had the rape allegation in New York. His brothers are not a fun part of the equation. Dean brings up Brooke Lopez. Yet I don't think Brooke Lopez is going to leave.
Oh God, no.
No. Brad asks, what about Naz Reid? What is his contract situation? I love Naz Reid as well. And Naz Reid is a weird anomaly in the NBA where he's, I think, a fourth-year player that is a non-restricted free agent. He is unrestricted going into the summer, and they already have like $8 billion tied up into non-functional centers. And so Naz Reid will probably be looking for a new team.
And I don't think it's a team that is playing the center in front of him 35 minutes a night.
No, but could he play next to Sabonis with his ability to stretch the floor?
Don't think that defense is solid there.
I don't know. He's a shot blocker. He can do some stuff. Kuzma. People keep bringing up Kuzma. Again, I just don't. Kuzma doesn't really take it serious. Kuzma's been on a winning team one time with the Lakers when they won the championship, right? Like the bubble team. But
We're
outside
going full
of
Dinshitty here.
Oh yeah. There you go. So, but outside of that, I just he's about the lifestyle. Like I'm not sure that he comes in and he helps. I don't know. Like numbers wise and like fit wise, I think he actually does fit.
I think that would be great if you could pull that off. That's the type of move you need to make. You know, he's in those guys that I identify that I like in that position. So,
okay. What about Grant Williams?
Probably not.
Okay, and then the one that I think is gonna we saw today that Dallas is probably not bringing back
Christian Wood.
Not a big Christian Wood fan. I mean, you knew that
either.
When we talked about him in Houston. I'm not touching him.
Yeah, I've heard enough to make me think I don't believe he's a good fit either. Actually, functionally, he is a great fit. Like if you look at what he does, but if you're just looking at the numbers, you watch him play and everything I hear there is he just isn't a winning basketball player.
Which is like the story of Christian Wood. Every team's like, wow, this could work great. And then it just doesn't.
Actually, you know what someone said? They said, I kind of feel the same way I think about Christian Wood that I think about Marvin Bagley. And that's not like shots fired at Marvin Bagley. That's just that's who he is. Like he will get numbers, but what does that mean?
I like that somebody posed like OG or Pascal, and I would tell you, I think it was Tyler who said it. Whichever one you don't want, I would take.
I would take OG in a heartbeat.
I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. So,
yeah. Siakam is considerably older, if I'm not mistaken. He went and got old out of nowhere. Yeah, he's 29. where OG is 26 and sort of fits like the age arc of this team. Yeah, Keldon Johnson, I think, would be a really nice fit, but San Antonio is not moving on from him. Vince Castellano,
Castellano.
Cassiano. There we go. Dame Lillard. No.
How?
Well, I mean, you had Kyrie
He's not.
Irving sitting in the front row. What do you think, Sean? Is he a future Sacramento King?
He is not. He's probably a future Los Angeles Laker or staying with the Mavericks.
Okay. They said somebody said that the Lakers will not be chasing him.
Yeah.
PJ Washington is a restricted free agent, and I think Charlotte is going to match just about anything for him within reason. And the Kings don't really have something that they could offer that would be within reason. I don't know. Gordon Hayward for cheap. Nope.
No.
Well,
No,
it's
God,
not
no.
for cheap.
Yeah, I would definitely. Okay. So, Tyler, you bring up, again, OG. If OG were available, like, I think you would have to, like, salary filler. So that's where we talked about, like, Rashawn Holmes and something else, right? Maybe you have to go Davion. Maybe you have to do something. But would it be 2 or 3 first-round picks? Like, you could give them this year's first-round pick after the draft and let them make the draft pick. Then you don't have your 2014, 15, 16, but you could also just, and you can't trade 17 either. You could call Atlanta and say, hey, we'll just give you our 2000, not 14, 15, 16, 24, 25, 26. Sorry. You could just give up your 2024 and they would probably take it. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But then that would allow you to go out and trade like your 26 or 28 without any problems. I would even offer, if they want to get out from underneath it, you could even say, hey, how about we bump up and give you the 2023 first round pick, the number 24 pick to finish off the Kevin Huerter deal. And then the Kings would have all their first round picks moving forward. That would be interesting. Do you think the Kings move any of their current long-term contracts?
I think that the standout one to me is Davion. I'm definitely not saying I expect that. I just think as a player that I would imagine has decent value around the league right now, and it's hard to imagine a way that it works out with De'Aaron Fox being in front of him where he'd be able to actualize his potential ceiling, that maybe it would make sense. But that's not a expectation or anything. I just could see the logic behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a few guys that are major rotational, but I don't know. I mean, that's if you're swinging for some fences and having to make some type of move that I'm always for. And but I just don't see anything like that at the moment because I think they really like the people that they have. Brendan, you mentioned Davion, sure, you could see that, but I honestly feel like they like the pieces that they have, Davion included, as they move forward here, and it's really trying to find some plug and play around them. You know, you got some question marks with some free agents, but I think some of the guys that are at least on the roster, and with the exception of like someone like Rashawn Holmes, who obviously is on the roster and has has a contract. Yeah, I think they'd love to just add to it.
Lizzie brings up Kelly Oubre. First of all, Kelly Oubre and De'Aaron Fox have a spectacular relationship. They've been friends since high school. They were on the same AAU team. I once asked De'Aaron what he thought if he would take Kelly on the team, and he said in a heartbeat. He said because positionally, guys like that with that length and that athleticism and that ability just don't grow on trees, and the Kings don't have that type of guy. And that could be a guy that where a budget fit to replace Harrison Barnes short term might make some sense, but super athletic, a little crazy. And that's something you got to deal with. But the Kings might have they might have the culture to deal with a little crazy. I don't think it's that he doesn't care enough. I think I think he's erratic as a person. And that's something that you got to figure out. The McDaniels, I would take any of the McDaniels. I think that they all make sense. I don't think, Dean, you keep asking about Lauri Markkanen. I don't think he's going to be made available. The Kings already have Jordan Clarkson. His name is Malik Monk. And so I don't think you're going to go there. Okay. I don't know. Like, we've covered most of your questions in here. We're going to keep doing this like all throughout the summer and everything else. Sean is like rolling his eyes like, wait a sec. What?
What do you mean? I didn't roll my eyes.
I'm just kidding.
I actually I'm all for it.
Yeah, we might like once we get past this initial like evaluation of what just happened and all that stuff, we'll probably cut back to once we get past trades and free agency, we'll probably cut back to one pod a week, or maybe we'll do one regular pod a week and then one interview pod where we're bringing in guests and stuff like that. But we're going to keep plugging away, and we really appreciate everybody joining us here on this adventure. We have 260 people in the chat right now. If you guys don't mind, if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. That always helps. And if you want to comment at this point, you do have to go in and subscribe, and that takes like 2 seconds, and then you're allowed to make all kinds of comments and do whatever that you like. We haven't seen DB in a while. DB, if you're out there, Sean is filling like a little like where's my guy?
We would know if he was out here.
We would know. It's possible that DB is just a lurker and doesn't want to subscribe, so he can't make a comment to make Sean feel awkward. Dean, you keep yelling about Karis LeVert. Next time you might want to go all caps. And then you know what? Somebody in all caps, Mike Dizzle 40. We'll just pop this up. Please ask Mike, Coach. Please ask Coach why he benched Davion. That's all caps, so we understand that you're screaming at us now. We are actually, while we've been on the podcast today, it was announced that we will have Mike Brown interview tomorrow. That's going to be a question that gets asked without any questions. Not only will we ask about him, but also Harrison Barnes and all that stuff, like why Harrison wasn't part of the plan in the final 2 games. And that'll all be part of tomorrow's business as we're going through it. All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
I feel like we should start with James's final thoughts this time.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
James' final thoughts. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm worn out. Like the last couple of days, like I had to actually take naps to get through the day.
Naps are life.
Naps are spectacular. But this has been a crazy ride, a lot of fun. I've fully enjoyed it as way more than any other season of Kings coverage in my 13, mainly because they won and it's a little bit more fun. I thought the fan engagement was spectacular. My guy, John Santiago, was out in the crowd yesterday, like out in the Doco taking pictures and stuff, and like amazed how the fans were and everything else just outside the arena. I think this is it's been such a fun season filled with a bunch of dudes that want to hang out and want to be together and want to roll to run the same back. I'm not sure that we're going to get the same 15 guys, but I do think the core will be pretty stable and we'll actually be able to get, some continuity here. And I think it should be a good season next year. So those are my final thoughts. Bring on the sun, because I can't handle this weird cold weather. This is one of those things that makes my back go out, and I don't need that right now. All right, Sean, what do you got for final thoughts?
My turn. I don't know. This was a tremendous season. So for Kings fans, you should be very, very happy. There's going to be, it almost seems like the NBA for the most part is nearly a year-long thing that is covered. You're going to have California Classic. You're going to have Summer League. You have the draft before that. Hopefully there's be some pre-draft workouts that come through, and hopefully there's access to them.
Maybe.
And summer, yeah. I mean, and then then you get free agency and all that kind of stuff, and then you get like 1 month, maybe a little bit more than that, where nothing happens. So hope people really enjoy the time, and we'll be here, and looking forward to more coverage going forward. I got to jump on Warriors, so if you follow me, you'll see a lot of Warriors stuff there. No need to unfollow or mute, but there'll be some Warriors coverage as far as they go as usual. And then, jumping onto other sports, 49ers camp and a lot of that stuff. So, but Kings still comes first. So that's the priority.
Brendon?
I mean, first of all, it's a shame that Mike Brown has his presser at noon tomorrow. I was planning an all-day movie marathon, and that's right when Life was slotted in. And it's just, it really sucks, man. Every time I plan to watch it, something comes up. It's a real shame, and it's the only day. I don't know. Every other day I'm busy. I
can't wait. I want you keep that same energy when they announce Monty McNair, like the day later or 2 days after that.
Yeah, see, there's never time. I'm telling you, I try. I am excited for off-season coverage, believe it or not. Like, I'd rather be covering the second round of the playoffs right now for sure, but I think that I've gotten just accustomed to really looking forward to off-season coverage in years prior, and that being an important time of year. And there's a little bit of a different perspective this year of researching a guy for 24 and 38 rather than a lottery pick in the top 10, and also I think we're in a situation where Sacramento's an appealing place for people now. And I don't know that was a part of the conversation before. If anything, it was in the other direction. So I still think off-season is going to be interesting to talk about and kind of get to go through.
It's going to be funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, James.
I was going to say I'm all for De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk going out and getting more Kentucky boys.
Well, if they're I think it's going to be fun to see.
But yeah,
it feels like the last day of school in a way, right? And I kind of use this analogy on the radio earlier today, where it's like, it's going to be fun to see who shows up at first day of school next season as it opens up at the end of September, and like you're like, oh, that dude can grow a beard now, or this guy, like in high school, you're just like, oh, that guy like has hair on his chest now. That's wild. Like some of these guys are going to take a major step, in their development, and it's kind of the equivalent to that. So it's always a fun time to see.
That's always my favorite part. Like who did the work during the off season? Who comes out and looks great? Who decided that this is their year to be great? And I honestly, everything that we got from their exit interviews is the Kings learned a lot from this series. They're very appreciative. Not only that, if they were going to lose in the first round, just like what I got from De'Aaron Fox is if they were going to lose in the first round, they're kind of glad it was the Warriors, because they know that the Warriors are the best of the best. They're the champs. They're the ones that have all the experience. And so you go into the offseason with some sort of like understanding of what it takes to get to the next level. And I thought we saw players rise up. We saw some players fade. But the players who rose up, they now know that that's the level that they need to put themselves at for an entire year. And I think there's a lot of acceptance of that this is who we're going to be now. We're going to be this team. And I think that this team is ready. This is not a one and done playoff team. This is a multi-year playoff situation, in my opinion. And so we'll have to see how it goes.
I also think that this is the right time of year for live happy hours, for what it's worth.
I would love to do a live happy hour. Let's get the one happy hour that I'm trying to get. I'm going to try to work on to really like kick this thing off. But this summer we will do a live happy hour. Do you guys have any vacation plans?
Oh, come on now. It's lots of concerts, man. Lots of concerts stacking up already. Bottle Rock end of this month.
Oh,
that's in Napa. So if you're out there, have fun with me. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have, I think we're going to do San Diego possibly twice. I know, ironically enough, as King season gets underway in training camp, I will be heading down to San Diego that Wednesday and spending a few days down there. So it'll interfere a little bit with camp for me. But yeah, there's going to be some fun stuff on the horizon.
Brenden?
No. I got to get a car first,
There you go. We're doing Puerto Vallarta, and we're doing it at the most inopportune time, but we're going with another family. So we're going from June 24th to July 1st. I'll have my laptop the whole time. And I can only handle so much sun.
Danielle asked me the best question of the night, which is, did I see Riri's Mega Gala look? I absolutely did. I have many thoughts. It was fantastic. It's good to see her there. She hadn't been at Met Gala for a long time. Still waiting for my invitation to Met Gala. I'd probably show up and wear a Hurley hat. But yeah, there was a lot of good stuff at Met Gala this year. To see Jared Leto was a big fucking cat dressed in a cat suit. And
that was wild.
Like Doja Cat is she's called Doja Cat, but it was all like for Karl Lagerfeld's cat. Like everyone's paying homage to that cat, man. That was kind of weird.
Wild. Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out there before we get off the show tonight. Number one, give us a thumbs up. Number two,
unless you already did,
join the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber, so we can do this year round and keep going with this thing. But also, if you work for a local business that would like to host us for a happy hour, then reach out. Like, you guys all can get my emails. Just respond to one of the emails. I'll get it. And so if there's someone out there who works at a local restaurant that's got enough room for us to do like a in-person happy hour, even if it's not even if we don't do a show, although I would like to do a show. You don't?
I'm just saying we don't have to.
No, I'm saying we can decide if we want to do a show or not. But yeah, if there's anyone out there that would like to host us, we would definitely figure it out. Tyler Griner brings up, did you guys see James Harden? I actually think he killed Cookie Monster and turned him into a bad outfit. Did you see that? It was like it literally looked like a Cookie Monster skin outfit. He looked ridiculous.
And he dropped 45 and hit a crazy shot to win the game. So Cookie Monster game ball.
Next time he's going to kill Elmo and have Elmo suit. He's going to wear full Elmo. The next game, he'll clearly show us that he killed Bert and Ernie and have a striped shirt on. Yeah.
Are you guys proud of me, by the way, for my Mythbusters reference?
We're never proud. We're never.
I was proud of you for your Mythbusters. There he is. Oh yeah.
It's hard to see.
Nom 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 nom.
Yes.
Cookies.
That's a good impression, man. You got it.
It was pretty good.
I can do all kinds of impressions. Brenden hears it because he's been in the car with me. No?
So when you're in the car, you just fire off impressions?
I do.
It's a long drive.
I do Can Kill.
I've heard that one.
A common one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something else I do that I can't remember.
I think it's your Sean Cunningham impression, but I could be wrong.
I don't do people that I know. I don't do people that I know. Well, I do one that I know, but I'm not going to do that one on the air. So,
inquiring minds. What are we talking about?
I'll text you guys. All right. God. Yeah, it puts the lotion on its skin again. There we go. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on this incredible journey all season long. It's a bummer the Kings are out. It was an incredible series. We're super excited to cover what's next. We got to dive into draft coverage. We got to dive into free agency coverage. And it's already May. It's wild how a 7-game series eats up 2.5 weeks of your life like that. And so now we're at this point where we're already looking at the draft and everything else coming up within 6 weeks. It's going to be a fun couple of months as the Kings try to reshape this roster to get it to the next round and potentially more. So for Box 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, I am James Hamby, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. See you later this week.